Welcome to What CEOs Talk About. Do you wonder what CEOs talk about behind closed doors? How they bring their vision to reality? How do they overcome and succeed through adversity? We share that and so much more with each episode. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, everyone. My name is Martin Hunter. I am the host of What CEOs Talk About, where we talk about translating strategy into frontline operations. Today, my guest is Cam MacDougall. He is the founder of Inbody Fit. He's been doing that for 4 years. Before that, Bear and a Beef. What was your title at Bear and a Beef, Cam?
I was a founder as well.
There you go. There's 4 years of that. And before that, he was a bean counter. For how many years were you a bean counter for?
About 5 years in conjunction with the Barons of Beef. Yeah.
So everybody, thank you very much for welcoming Cam MacDougall on the show. Cam, like all my guests, and I'm so excited to hear the title because there's a lot of us, especially during COVID, that feel the pain. And I'll be quiet right now. What's the title of the show? What do you want to call the show?
This is such an honor to say the title as well. Awesome. I love it. So the title for today's show is Using Your Body as a Vehicle for Change in Your Life or Business, however you see fit.
Sweet. So let's bring it back to that. So we're just going to let that sit with the audience for now, because we're going to come back in and split that whole sentence up. So tell us, okay, so Cam, back in 1980 something when I was born. So tell us about your story, Cam. How did it start? Where? Because I think there's a couple of things that I think are worth mentioning. Go ahead. What's your story?
Yeah, definitely, my man. Definitely. So yeah, how far back you want me to go? You want me to go to the beginning?
So, well, not as far as Lucy.
Fair enough. We'll leave out the evolutionary biology behind human existence. Yeah, I agree.
Go back to, so were you pushed into bean counting? Like, is that something that you wanted to do? You say, okay, I got to be a professional. My parents have been good to me. I want to keep going to school. Like, start there and then go on from there. Because I think there's the foundation of who you were back then kind of dictates the path forward to who Cam is today. So, and without spilling the beans.
Yeah, definitely. So my beginning journey was definitely not your normal journey for a human being.
Okay.
I grew up in the east side of Vancouver, close to the downtown east side.
Okay.
And growing up, I was very involved in drugs, gangs, violence, a lot of really intense stuff. And for the majority of my teenage years, spent, most of my time going in and out of juvenile detention, dropping out of school. I basically couldn't listen to anybody who tried telling me what to do. I was just this inner rebel that just couldn't kind of fit into any mold that people tried to put me into. And throughout the course of that journey, I found fitness, and fitness became the catalyst for me to start harnessing this energy inside of me that I kept putting into all of these very negative channels and redirecting it into something that was more positive. So over the course of about 10 years, I turned my whole life around. I had my 18th birthday in juvenile detention. My next charge would have been, the big house. I would have been in the adult penitentiary system. And when I got out, I had this whole transition and started going into fitness. And when I did that, I found cooking. I found the restaurant industry, something that was fiery and exciting, and was able to once again harness that wild side of me that I had and put it into something that was good. And so going through that for many years, worked from, being a 19 to 20-year-old grade 10 high school dropout washing dishes, I worked up to becoming the sous chef of that restaurant, And in that process, fell in love with, fixing my life and getting back on track. And in that process, I decided to go back to business school. So first, obviously, I had to go graduate high school as an adult and go back and finish that. And then I did really well while working. Yeah.
Good on
So
you,
I would work until 11 p.m., 12 a.m. And then I'd spend, 3 hours doing my homework and be back at the restaurant 10 a.m. the next day, 6 days a week. So very, very intense process to kind of change. But I really found a groove with it. And in that process, I decided to go back to business school and, or not back to school, but into business school. And when I did that, I fell in love with business and realized I didn't want to cook for the rest of my life, and realized I didn't want to work when everyone else had time off. So I was like, okay, business is good. And in that process, I fell in love with it. And right out of school, got into finance, right? So we're at the bean counting situation. And got into finance, definitely wasn't counting the beans. I was a sales rep, worked my way up to assistant vice president at that company, and just, was selling, high ticket items for capital assets. That was kind of my jam that got me kind of out of the mix and into the real world, so people would say. And through that process, at that point, I was now, very fit, very successful, making all the money, doing all the stuff. And, I could have been the poster child for high performance, because I was a regional CrossFit athlete, CrossFit coach, personal trainer, nutrition specialist. Now I was this AVP at this company. I thought I was so cool, thought I had it all figured out. And I didn't. I hit some of the most deepest depression of my life, because for 10 years, I had been changing everything that I thought mattered in my life, but I hadn't looked inward, right? Everything I had done was, change what's on the outside, change what's here, change what's there, fix the surroundings. And I did that beautifully, but hit a wall, because I was like, wow, I've accomplished all these things and I still feel like shit. Like, what's going on here? Right. So in that process, I dove inward, found breath work, found meditation, found all these different things, and actually ended up cutting all these things out of my life. Right. So I left the company and, stopped CrossFitting, and I'd cut it all down. And in that same process, I had created, the Barons of Beef. So focused my efforts on a passion project and my first online business, and really kind of start working on myself inwardly. And throughout that process, it became beautiful. Worked my way up to, being able to sell that company, continue my inner journey. And then, after that, left and moved to Bali after doing a ride that you watched the documentary for.
So, hey, hold on a second. Take a pause there, because I think it's very worth mentioning. So for those who are listeners, there's an episode with Jeff Livingston where he focuses on self-care, and Cam can build on his relationship. But Jeff and Cam did what exactly?
So we rode the Great Divide, which is the longest off-route mountain bike route in the world. It's 4,350 kilometers that spans from Banff, Alberta to Antelope Wells, New Mexico, just on the border of Mexico and the US, through the Rocky Mountains. So it was a journey, that's for sure.
How long did it take you?
38 days, I think, is how long exactly it took us. Riding.
And where can we watch the video?
Well, we can put a link here in the show notes, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
But we can also, Jeff's got it up on YouTube, so we'll just have to get the link from him. It's a private link, but we'll share it.
It is emotional for those who are listening, and I think I won't tell the secrets. There's inversed in roles in a certain part that when you watch it, you'll understand, and you'll definitely understand who Cam is once you watch it. So sorry, Cam. I thought it was worthwhile mentioning here.
Oh, no worries at all. We're in flow. I love it. And that's, it's hard whenever I try to pick the story to say. There's a lot of stories within the story. It's like Inception. You have to pick which ones you want to kind of go through. So I decided, I'd breeze over that one And then you brought it up. So it's beautiful. But
so Barons of beef, you sell Barons of beef. That's where we're at. Okay.
Yeah. So we sold Barons of beef, you know, and basically my life went into teaching people how to, you know, really start to tap into their body and tap into their superpowers. I was obsessed with human performance. I was obsessed with human transformation, inner work. And so I moved to Bali, started studying breath work, meditation, all these different practices that kind of help us unlock, you know, these superpowers that are hidden within us, and started Inbody Fit. And here we are today, you know, doing our thing and transforming humans from the inside out all over the world.
Good. So what is it that you currently do? What does Inbody Fit do?
Yeah. So what we do is we combine the worlds of spirituality or consciousness, you know, conscious practices like meditation, breath work, you know, the inner work, with high performance, with training. So really helping people access, you know, flow states, accessing, you know, different kind of neurological pathways that especially CEOs and business owners have a very tough time accessing, like rest and recovery. But we teach people how to really start to work with their bodies as opposed to against their bodies, based on, you know, ego, drive, drowning in ambition, all of those things that so many of us are familiar with. So long story short, we run programs, retreats, experiences, and coaching practices to facilitate that for people, to really get them in their bodies, get them feeling really good, and ultimately have them show up like complete badasses in their life, business, relationships, wherever they want to take it.
Inside out. That's what I always say, right? It's when I practice my gratitude, I always start with me. Like, what am I grateful for my skills? What do I bring to the world? Right. And you go, okay, well, because gratitude and gratefulness is great. I apply it to every huddle that we have. Always start with good news or gratefulness around the table. And then, you know, we go to a top two things that I'm dealing with. And then the need help is really to drive collaboration. But with that said, when I do my journaling, it is always inside out. Because if you are not healthy of mind, I always say the trilogy, right? So your mind, your spirit, and your body. And when I say by spirit is your morale, your feelings, how, you know, human beings have think, feel, do. And I've talked about this before, but when you are doing, you know, EOS is a well-known operating system, and it says, well, leadership, so L plus M, management, equals accountability, right? So with that being said, what leadership is all about behaviors, management is about systems. And then that equals accountability. So if you apply those same principles to your human life, how do I lead myself? How can I be kind, compassionate as a leader to myself? And it's okay. Martin yesterday had 2 Rice Krispie squares that my kids made on spring break. I like, you know what? My wife just said, be gentle with yourself. And I was like, yeah, you know what? CEOs tend to be very harsh on ourselves. We tend to, and you've led that, not just CEOs, but executive in general, tend to be very hard on themselves and set the bar very high. And so I can do more. I can do more. I can do more. I can do better. I can do better. I can do that. And without that self-reflection of, hey, where do I stand? I want everybody else in the safety world. Supervisors get hurt more often than employees, because the supervisor will sees their views of safety and protection. My life is not as important as my employees, just like a mother or a father would do. And so therefore, in the risk of not, hey, hold on a second. If I get hurt is as bad as if that guy or this lady gets hurt, right? So I think that to translate what you're saying into day-to-day operations, regardless, if you're not showing the right human behaviors as the leader of any organization in being able to use your body as a vehicle, then you're not there. Then your company will not be there. So tell us a few success stories, because I'm assuming that you do a few CEOs, right?
Definitely.
You do PT, personal training, and facilitating and all that good stuff, because your role is no different than any of the other. You facilitate and facilitate their journey and elevate them as human beings, which is no different than any other leader, right? So give us a couple of cool stories, Cam.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess the first place that I start is, you know, for me, it's all about mindset, right? And it's all about rewiring our system into a right state of being that's conducive to us creating extensions of our being, right? So what that looks like is, you know, like you said, as a CEO or as a leader, as an owner of a business or whatever, it's everything we create stems from who we are. Everything we create stems from the health in our body. Everything we create stems from this being that we are, and we get very disconnected from that. It's almost like the company or the corporation or the whatever it is that we're creating becomes the thing we care about most, and we forget that it's an extension of who we are, right? And so its health relies directly on who we are. So I love how you kind of put that in there. That's beautiful. So, you know, this morning we had our first, you know, call of the week, and we do weekly calls with everybody. And so the program does have training and nutrition, yes, but of course, those are just kind of the enticers for people. I call myself you know, I say that I bait and switch everyone. I say, here, I'm going to give you fitness and nutrition, and then I'm going to crack you open. Yeah. And then I'm going to crack you open, and we're going to start looking at the real shit that's under the hood.
Yeah.
So, you know, this morning we had our live call, and people from all over the world were tuned in. And, you know, one of my clients is a, you know, very powerful CEO. He has, you know, 35 employees, does his thing very, very well, and is very successful doing what he does. Came on and said that, you know, one of his biggest wins throughout this program, and I think he's got to be 11 or 12 weeks in now. One of his biggest wins in this program was he actually stopped the program for a week, and he stopped doing everything in his business for a week, and he pushed pause. And to me, you know, that was beautiful. Most people would hear me say it and they're like, dude, why would you celebrate that? And for me, it's everything, because that individual became obsessed with checking boxes off the to-do list, right? And as CEOs, that's what we do, right? We're like, I have to get all these things done. And the more I get done, the more I build the business, the more, you know, success we have, and the more we support the people that are involved in it, and da, 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 da. So he was realizing that and could see that taking place, and then had the awareness to say, no, I'm consciously going to step away from my business. I'm consciously going to step away from the program. I'm consciously going to go away with my family and just be present and immerse myself in their world, out of self-love, out of gratitude, out of this, you know, beautiful state of being that he's now cultivated within himself. Whereas before, it would have been burnout that would have slapped him in the face and forced his hand, right? So for me, yes, flexing the muscles are important, but for me, it's way more important to be able to flex that internal dialogue and flex that internal mindset that puts you in the driver's seat of your state, and your ability to take a step back without feeling bad about yourself, without, you know, dealing with a whole bunch of anxiety and freaking out about taking your foot off the gas pedal, and truly enjoying your life. And so that's what it's all about with Inbody Fit. It's, you know, we train to live, we don't live to train, right? That's the motto. We train to live, we don't live to train. And so when we can take the moment to step back and enjoy our lives, that's a huge win for me. And you know what? Now that he's back, productivity through the roof, fitness through the roof, scale's gone down, enjoyment's gone up, right? All these things take place because the body knows what to do. But if we don't ever take our foot off the gas, we don't let the autonomic systems come in and do what they have to do to fix all the shit that we create inside, right? So the moment that we do that, we open ourselves up to stuff we never thought possible before. So that was one that just happened this morning. That was really fresh that I thought I would share.
Dude, there's so many things that I want to riff off of this one. So people forget, like when you look at a beautiful flower, like I was walking my dog and we came back, and there's this crocus that pops out, and I was like, shit, wow, where'd that come from? And I realized that in the moment that it doesn't bloom all year round, it only blooms in spring, and that's okay. It's okay to just have strawberries in the spring, or like late spring, early summer. It's okay to have mangoes only in winter. Like, people see the need. I always put this equation of profit plus sustainability equals prosperity. Everybody aims to be prosperous, but they go so much, and I shouldn't say profit as everybody's got the dollar sign. It's not that. It's about getting shit done. The more, like you said, Cam, the more stuff I do, the more productive I will be, and the more productive I will be, the more successful I will be. They forget that's the sustainability part of the seasons is key. We work Monday to Friday so that we can live Saturday and Sunday. We work how many weeks out of the year so that we can have 4 to 5 weeks off in the year. Why can that not be applicable on a day-to-day basis? Because prosperity is the same thing. Like, I bring it back to safety, because safety is a foundation of the business. When you get safety right in manufacturing, production, anything else, what you're saying is that I want you to do safe production. I want you to work well, and a hard day's work should be celebrated. And I want you to stay safe, because so you can come back tomorrow and the day after and the day after and the day after. That's prosperity. Peaking and CEOs forget that. Oh, I'm going to go hard. And then they leave for a month, and you go, where the fuck you go? Like, so why not work a couple of hours a day? Because that's what I do when I go to Mexico. I get up nice and early. I get my shit done nice and early in the morning. Then I go fishing. Then I come back, and then the kids are all awake. We have breakfast. And so, and the last part that I wanted to add is that my kids, especially during COVID, my boy more than my girl, my wife says, it's okay to be bored. You don't have to fill every second of your time with screen time activities. It's okay to be one with your brain, inside your brain. Chill out, relax, learn to go for a drive. The other day we just went for a drive. And I have nothing to do. Yeah, look outside, enjoy, have a conversation, listen to music. And that's the living component of building a business. Why the fuck did you start the business in the first place? Because everybody's got the dream of, I'm going to live on the beach. I'm going to sell out. I've got nothing to do. And then all of a sudden they've created all these behaviors, these habits, and they go, and they go to a cliff. And like you said, the burnout comes in. So congratulations, Cam, on doing what you're doing. Sorry, I interrupted because I wanted to learn more about this live call. Is that all of your clients? Or is it per group? Like, how does it work?
Yeah. So we bring, everyone comes in. I have 2 calls I run on Wednesdays every week. And so everyone from, mostly Europe, and then the early risers come to the morning call. And then, we've got other people, more kind of the later individuals that'll come to the evening call, or people early in the morning in Australia and such. But, for me, it's just a great place to come together and to up level, right? So often we do these journeys on our own, right? And I've been a high performance coach forever. Like I work with, very, very high level CEOs and executives as one-on-one clients. So they're obviously not involved in this, but one of the biggest challenges that people have in that world is they're doing it themselves. Mm-hmm. Right. And so the group courses that I run, the group programs that I run are great because you get 12 people on a call who are all in the same spot doing the same stuff. You get, 12 times the experience in 1 hour than you would in your own experience. Right. Mm-hmm. So whenever we're on one of those calls, we share a win, we share a challenge, we share insight. Mm-hmm. Right. So what's something you want to celebrate? What's something that you're challenged with? And what's something that you've learned over your experience in this past week? So that every single week, everyone's up leveling from everyone's insights, everyone's challenges, and everyone's wins. So we do that once a week. Yeah.
Business practice 101. With any leader, get your team together and do the exact same thing Cam is doing. So what, give me the most powerful transformation that you've witnessed through your work. Like, give me a couple of them, because I'm sure there's more than one. But what's the one that you go, yeah, man, this guy, this girl, like I had tears in my eyes when I helped this person, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a tough question for me to answer, to be honest. Because, for me, when it comes to transformation, some people just paying for the program is a transformation, right? Some people just believing that they're worthy enough to, buy this program and spend the money on it is enough of a transformation. So it's a very kind of unique experience for each person. And to be honest, I'm moved to tears weekly with my clients go through and what they're overcoming, and so for me, I can't really zero it into one or two actual transformations, because honestly, every single person that comes into that program transforms. And it's not always what they think they came in to transform for, but they always leave going, wow, I'm a different person because now I have X or now I have Y. One thing that I will say is that really gets me fired up is when people join the program for fitness and they join the program for the biceps, the six pack, the booty, whatever that is, and they leave not giving a shit about that. Because to me, that means that they have harnessed a whole new relationship inside of their body and inside of their being, and they've been able to refocus their priorities to vitality, self-love, all these different things that conventional fitness or conventional performance does not really talk about. So they're all beautiful, long story short. One thing I will share with you that right now that will be applicable to your audience, is I have another client who just graduated, and if you check out my Instagram, I think he's the most recent testimonial I posted.
Okay, gotcha.
But he's an entrepreneur, came into the program, very much so ebbing and flowing in his fitness world as a lot of people do. And he left, obviously crushing fitness and doing all these things that he wanted to do. But one of the most powerful things that he was able to realize in that journey was that he got his work hours down from 8 to 3 a day. And he did that because of the productivity increases that he witnessed from his sleep improving, from his focus improving, from having a routine that was anchored in. Now, that's not to say that he didn't, continue to work. It's not like he just finished those 3 hours and that was it. But he's like, what used to take me 8 hours now takes me 3. And so he's able to now spend way more time working on his business as opposed to in his business, and really kind of embody the energy that he wants to carry forward in what he does. So to me, that's really, really powerful, because so often we think I can't add another thing because I'm too busy. When people tell me that, I'm like, oh, thank you for giving me that invitation, because I'm just about to flip the script on you.
Kabam! Right? There's the uppercut.
Yes, thank you. Welcome.
You just put your chin right out for me. There you go. Whooping.
Exactly. And I've seen enough entrepreneurs with multiple businesses, multiple children, traveling multiple times a month, find room for themselves, and not only find room for themselves, but start prioritizing it because they see how much it actually improves their efficiency and their ability to get stuff done.
Correct.
So for me, this is so powerful, and it's such a beautiful display of how powerful this tool is and how powerful the body is, because when we start to work with the systems and we start to develop the right practices, we work as a fine-tuned machine, as opposed to just, something that's fritzing out that hasn't had a chance to take a rest and recover. So that's one that I think would be very applicable for the audience that's listening. And it's one that's very recent, that was very powerful.
Cool. People always, for me and my teams as a fractional COO and having a team of other guys and girls that do similar project direction, everybody always looks at me and they go, you have time for podcast? Like, how much shit do you get done in a day, Martin? Is just beyond belief. And I'm not tooting my horn. It's just, I want to support what Cam is saying. I get up at 4:45. Okay. That's my routine. Get up, go to the washroom. I don't bring my device with me. I sit in there, get ready, put my gym clothes on. I go to work because I feel the most refreshed first thing in the morning. So I tackle all of my emails and important tasks between usually 5 to 7. 7, go walk the dog. I put my backpack on because I love hunting, fishing, being outside. Well, hunting, harvesting doesn't happen very often, but it's more being outside than anything else. Because my buddy Dom and I have not been so good because we don't go often enough. But anyways, it's just about being outside and being with boys. So walk for an hour, come back, hit my kettlebells, hit my ski erg, and then wash, eat breakfast, say hi to my kids, and then jump into it. And I rinse and repeat. So then I work till 5. I do intermittent fasting as well. So work till 5. And then 5, it's a shutdown. Now, sometimes 5 is not a shutdown because, sometimes there's HR issues that need to be addressed, and that's okay. And then the evening is meant for preparation. So with that being said, I feel and I prioritize what is important first things first, right? 7 habits, like Stephen Covey, is still applicable to this day. So I think that's understanding that everybody has 24 hours a day, no more, no less. Everybody's created equal. You have rights, but your rights comes with responsibilities. And I think that the one thing that CEOs don't do enough, or they don't realize, like my daughter had a presentation at school and she's so nervous. I said, Ariel, nobody gives a shit. Really, nobody gives a shit about your presentation. If you say something funny, they'll laugh. They'll listen to you for maybe a minute out of the 3 minutes. And then they're going to go to the next thing that's important to them. So don't think that, Ariel's coming up and, Ariel just left. Nobody gives a shit. So if you think that because you're the CEO, people give a shit about you, you are mistaken. You are not important in anybody's life. Maybe your wife, maybe your kids, your brother, your sister, your mother, your father. But don't think that, I need to do this. I need to do that. People are watching me. People look at, yes, they are. But it is what you do with that minute or two that is impactful. It's not about, and I can say that because I traveled the world. I was away for 8 weeks at a time sometimes. And my wife would tell me it's not being a dad all the time. It's that when you are a dad, you are where your feet are. And that, I think, is a key component of what you're saying too. So Cam, tell us so for the listeners and the people that are watching, what's the trend in wins, challenges, and learnings? You must see a trend in what people give you as wins, challenges. So if anybody's looking in and go, well, shit, I'm really not good at this. Maybe I should call Cam, or, maybe I should seek out for some assistance. So what are the biggest wins in general, or the generalized wins that your CEOs talk about most often at times?
Mm-hmm. So I'd say the biggest trend in wins that I see can be zeroed down into a new connection to their body. So, whether it's following the nutrition plan or, doing a workout or choosing rest or any of these things that, that they all kind of come back to the same factor. And that's that they're starting to listen to and build a relationship with their body. And so that's kind of the first win.
Gotcha.
I would say that I see that's the most common across the board. And that's one that we celebrate very, very often. Because, people hit burnout because they're not listening. Mm-hmm. The body's speaking, sometimes screaming, and we just don't listen, right? That illness, all the injury, everything is avoidable in that sense, but we have to be able to listen, right? We have to be able to listen. So that's the most common win. Most common challenge, I would have to say, would be the patterns that keep trying to keep them where they are, right? So, we develop these neurological patterns, right? That, that we kind of entrain into our existence, and we call them personalities a lot of the time. And we say, a lazy guy, or, I'm just stressed out, or, that's just who I am. And so the biggest challenges that our clients face is really kind of falling victim to those stories that they kind of tell themselves on a daily basis. So we really kind of, support people in rewiring that and helping them see what is a story and what truly is a personality trait that you would want to actually, nurture and harness and fortify. So that would be the most common, type of challenge across the board that we see. And then the biggest insight, it comes down to choice. People are always so astonished with the power they have to make the choices that they want to in their life, as opposed to thinking they have to do certain things because of momentum or because of society or because of programming or employees or partners or whatever that is. They realize it's like, no, I actually have the choice on, whether I want to do the thing, and if the thing's going to happen regardless, how you ultimately perceive it. Right. So the biggest insight will come down to people's ability to choose in their lives.
It's funny how the perception of pain, not pain, perception of pain is an ultimate motivator. When I say, what are you afraid of? Because that's what I get coming. They go, oh, you're not afraid to do this. You're not afraid to do that. I do fear setting. And, God bless Tim Ferriss for putting it out there. There's a YouTube of Tim walking you through the process of fear setting. His ability to break down processes is phenomenal. So I always say, what are you afraid of? How can we do risk mitigation? Because that's what I come from. I come from safety, security. I was in the Army in Canadian Armed Forces for a long time. And so safety, security, risk managers, business continuity is about to say, okay, you're faced with adversity. You have no choice, right? You will be faced with that. What will you do? How will you deal with it? What are you afraid of? Don't be afraid. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is the tool. Actioning knowledge is the power. So I think a lot of people, like you said, they're afraid, well, what will the employees say? What will the board say? Oh my goodness. And it's just speak the truth. Like Brene Brown, courage, vulnerability. I'm assuming that you do a lot of that because those are best practices. So can you give a few tools without giving away the program? How do people understand if they're listening to their bodies or not? Going, you know what? I'm listening to Martin, I'm listening to Cam, and they go, well, I do this, I do that. What's kind of a question that, or a position that you go, okay, I'll give you a grade of 7 on 10 for listening to your body. What's kind of tips or tricks to really identify if you're listening to your body or not?
Yeah, it's a great question. It really is. So as an athlete growing up, I was always taught to rank my states, right? So I was always taught to, before I went into a training session, it was always, how flexible do I feel? How energized do I feel? How nourished do I feel? How stressed do I feel? Right? How powerful do I feel? How strong? And I would rank each of those out of a 10, right? 1 to 10. And if anyone was below kind of a 7, and it wasn't like nourishment, which I could fix relatively quickly, would dictate how hard I went, right? So that's kind of a really easy, just kind of tool, just that you can do really quickly in a journal as a check-in process. Now, where it gets a little more challenging is everything is relative, right? Your state of being right now is relative. What you feel as being optimal, and someone might actually, think was superhero level, or the opposite, right? What someone feels is optimal, someone might be like, holy shit, you're sick, So it really becomes a challenge because people don't really know what they don't know.
Yeah, it's true.
So that's where the experience side of stuff has to come into effect. And that's why, the first foundational pillar of Inbody Fit is breathe. right?
Oh.
And when I say breathe, I don't just mean, kind of in and out. I mean, we do breath work and we go in and we go so deep where we drop through the conscious mind into the subconscious mind, and we allow for what wants to move to come out, right? And when you do that, you actually get a front row seat to exactly what's taking place in your body. And, I've run a lot of breathwork journeys for people over the years, and this might scare some of your listeners, but I'm going there anyways, because that's how I roll. But, I've seen people have, full on convulsions that other people would think was a seizure during a breathwork session. I've seen people scream, cry, throw up, freak out. I've seen bodies contort and move and shift. And that's because the nervous system is so wound up that when you bypass the conscious mind that's trying to hold everything in place, it pops. And when it pops, everything starts to come out. We cry, we snot, we shout, we scream, we twist, we turn, we dance, we do everything that we can to move the energy out of the body, right? Because the body's just a big antenna. But the moment that you start doing that, when you release that energy, you actually start to feel for the first time in your life what it feels like to not have all that shit that's holding you back and weighing you down. And from that place, you can start making educated decisions and relative decisions based on what you've experienced the next time you sit down and do a check-in. So the check-ins are great, but there are tools required for you to start to experience these other states of consciousness or states of being that will ultimately show you what you're actually missing out on.
Wow. Yeah. The breathing, it amazes me. I struggle with that. I have to admit, I struggle with the breathing component. Having practiced kendo, Japanese fencing for many years, the screaming, the intention of focusing your breathing on the events and activities, I miss that so terribly much. And sometimes I'll drive and I'll zip up all the windows in my truck and I will just scream for as long as I can. And I'm like, felt like it was, stuck underneath my hat for, 2 weeks. So, dude, that is so very powerful. Absolutely. How do people, let's jump into challenges. What's a checklist to say, pardon me, fuck me, I'm in deep shit. I shouldn't say deep shit, but I'm saying, okay, I'm listening to this, I'm getting it. Like, what's my state? Like, then FOMO kicks in, right? Am I missing out on something? How am I doing? Like CEOs, like entrepreneurs, they make me laugh. Oh, look, shiny thing. Oh, look, shiny thing. And they'll jump on to something. They go, oh, EOS. Oh, scaling up. Oh, this new book that I read, right? They feel the need to always do something more. And they always like to be evaluated. So let's give them a tool. How do they know that they've got more challenges than wins to say, oh shit, like I think I need to talk to Cam?
Well, just to preface it, we're all there. We've all forgotten, right? Even myself, like I'm, this is my life. This is what I do. And every week I'm finding new stuff, right? I just immerse myself in it. And so, the act of getting into the body and the act of accessing these states is the act of us remembering what we've forgotten, because everything that I teach it's not new. It's ancient wisdom that, post-agricultural revolution, we decided to completely abolish because we got too smart and too lazy to continue the practices that were keeping us alive as, since then. And so, it's just, yeah, especially in the West. The East has done a way better job at it, but we've just totally forgotten. So, to preface that, we're all trying to find our
We're
way
all
home.
dead. Well, this is true, right? I'm a big stoic, and people giggle. They say memento mori. Yeah, I think about death all the time, like the samurai code Bushido, right? It's if you have, hey, tomorrow could be my last day. How can I be the best human being that I can be today? So you're all going to die. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe 80 years from now, we're all going to die. So with that being said, Cam, we're all in shit. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. I love it. So I would say, a couple red flags for me are you're plateauing. Okay. So something's not working. You're kind of at a state, where you're either not seeing more energy or, weight loss, more muscle, more conditioning, whatever that is. So you're plateauing and you constantly are plateauing. That's a red flag that you got to get a little weird with your practice and change things up. I would also say that, if you're dwindling, right? So if you're constantly tired, humans are not supposed to be constantly tired, right? Like if you're somebody that's like, wow, I'm just always tired. It's like that's not normal.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not a normal place to be. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's, one of those things I talked about. It's like one of those traits. They're like, I'm just a tired person. It's like, no, you're not a tired person. Your body wants to thrive. Right. So there's something there. So that's a big one that I would say, take a look at. And then boredom's a big one for me, where if you're at a place where you're like, I got a good routine, I'm doing my stuff, and you're not waking up excited to do your practice. You're not waking up excited to start the day, and you're not feeling, ecstatic about life, then it's time to take a look, right? Because when I know every single time that I wake up and I don't feel grateful for life, I don't feel excited for the day, I don't feel like I could do anything I want to, then something's off. And I think as a society, we've gotten way too used to this like subpar way of being where everyone's like, how you doing? It's like, I'm okay. It wasn't that bad. Yeah. But it's, it's worse than that. Or it's just, we've gotten into this state where it's like, I think there's a stat where for every one good thought we have 3 bad thoughts. That's kind of where we're at. Right. And so, if we're kind of, constantly in that state, it's like, we're supposed to be, it's the other way. We're supposed to have 3 good thoughts for 1 bad thought. You know what I mean? Like that's what we're supposed to be. And we've just forgotten. So, just remembering that, if you're not feeling super stoked and excited about your life and your business and what you got going on, then that's not normal. And it's not okay to just be like, yeah, I'm just living. It's like, it should be like, I'm fucking living and this is great. Right. That's the kind of energy that we want to bring to it. Right?
I like my feet pointing down, not pointing up. Right.
That's it. Right. That's it. Exactly. So, those are kind of 3 things I would say to kind of tap into. Obviously, if you've got nagging injuries, if you've got chronic pain, if you've got, lethargy and brain fog, and, the list just goes on and on and on. But really what it comes down to is if you're not feeling like you're in an optimal state and you've done the work to know what an optimal state actually feels like, then, it's either time to do the work to check out what an optimal state feels like or do the work to fix it. So, everyone can benefit.
I mean, there's so much to unravel here. Modern medicine. I mean, I'll talk about, I've had athlete's foot for the longest time, right? Played years of rugby, in the army, trench feet and all that good stuff. And so I've been a victim of athlete's foot. Even when I hydrate, is just wearing boots all the time, motorcycling. So Tracy, my wife, is a big, essential oils, right? And she's like, believe in the power of plants. So I was like, yeah, she stopped my snoring, at certain, at the end of the day, sometimes when I'm exhausted, she's like, you snore too much. Did you have a hard day? She rolls my feet and off I go and everything's good. She gets to sleep too. So the power of medicine and the power of sleep. So she rolled this, I think it was lemongrass or something like that. Gone 24 hours. Right. So you use good holistic approach to what you put into your body, but also good holistic approaches to what the body actually needs, right? I'm at the stand-up desk right now. So, the human being was meant to stand, not sit continuously, right? Little wins like that can put us in, I think, I want to hear, because then we can go into modern medicine. I've had a hip replacement. My surgeon was like, you're going out today. He didn't want me to stay in. He wanted me to be, I think they're called superstar patients, where you come in, get operated on, and leave. So I'm with my walker in the hall. He comes by, and this little man, 5'4", maybe tiny little doctor, and he's like, gets it, rips it away from me. And he's like, you can do this. You're a strong man. You're leaving today. Walk with me. And so the power of saying, fuck this, not staying in the hospital, right? The power of your ability to perform even under duress, right? So I think that's a key that you had mentioned before, that putting yourself in the right state of mind and evaluating if you've plateaued. So last question is really the learnings, right? What has been the top 1 or 2 learnings that you've had, Cam, when you go, and it could be anything. It could be a book. It could be an event. It's like, because you've had a lot of transformations throughout. Which one was the most powerful so far? The transformational learning. Like, I learned how to, I don't know, breathe underwater. I grew gills. I don't know. What was the most transformational learning in your life? 1 or 2?
That's a big question for sure.
It is. Well, you're a big man. You got big boots, man. You've done a lot. So
that's it. Oh, I can handle it. I want to give you the juicy one. I'll do 2, because there's 2 that I think are really applicable. So the first would be the power of the breath. Every single time and I do 20 minutes of breath work every day.
Okay.
At the very least. And it changes your life in more ways than I can even, we need a whole other podcast, maybe 6, to talk about the benefits of that. But breath work shows you the truth, right? It shows you what you're holding on to. It shows you what your body's capable of. It shows you, it shows you everything that is hiding under the surface. So really, really tapping into breath work, and every single CEO in the world should be doing breath work journeys at least once a month. Like, there is nobody else in the world that needs it more than CEOs, because you hold on to so much baggage that does not need to be yours, emotionally, energetically, spiritually, physically, the list goes on, right? So breath work is by far the most transformational, powerful, easy to access tool we have available to ourselves, right? It's like Wim Hof says, he says, you get high on your own supply. You don't need plant medicine. You don't need this. You don't need that. You need a practitioner that knows what they're doing. You need a set of lungs, and you can get it done. Right. So that's kind of the first most transformational thing that I've done. And then I would say the second is, a mentor and teacher of mine, Dr. Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you've seen any of his work, but he runs a retreat every year. And I just went to his retreat in Mexico, I think, 6 months ago, maybe. And I've been following his work for a really long time. And I got onto his work because someone's like, heard me talking about this stuff. And they're like, you should check out Dr. Joe, because it sounds like you guys are saying a lot of the same stuff. And I checked him out, and I was like, wow, this guy, it feels like he could be my dad or something. We seem like super connected in how we see life and how we kind of see the evolution of humans. And so his practice is that of what you just touched on, gaining control of the mind, control of the body, control of the autonomic systems within us, and really creating the most, powerful, badass life we possibly can. Now he merges the worlds of quantum physics and spirituality. So, he really teaches you about energy. He teaches you about, getting beyond this fabrication that we kind of identify as us, and learn that, there's so much more going on around us than we can even begin to comprehend, and he flips that into extremely empowering tools. So first, breath work, using that as a tool to get into the body. The second is, really starting to understand how energy works, how your body works, and how you actually have the power to control not only, the way that your internal body functions, but how you build your life around you outside of this, like he would say, matter to matter Newtonian physics perspective, but more from one of quantum nature. So it gets pretty wild. It gets pretty specific.
That's fucking deep, man.
We can go down a rabbit hole with that. But it's the most powerful stuff I've ever seen outside of plant medicine. So, that right there is are probably the two most, transformational, powerful experiences that I think would be relative to your audience. But
and that flips into, I usually ask, what should you focus on? What can you tell the listeners what they should do? Well, you just did that. So focus on your breathing. So for those who are listening and not watching, my hand is up. So I just said it in this podcast, in this episode, that's the one thing I struggle with is the meditation and breath work. I've watched Win, and I've watched him, Iceman and all that good stuff. And I go, wow, that's really cool. And being a high performer, I think that's my next step. So I'm putting my hand up for this one. So,
well, I'm going to be in Vancouver from the 9th to the 30th, my friend. So
there you go.
Do you want to dive in?
There you go. 9th to the 30th. I'm putting this down. Last question, last. Take us through kind of in very short time. What does your routine look like? Because we talk about routines all the time, right? Do you have one? Do you have a set routine? And if you do, kind of walk us through it quickly, and so that people can say, okay, well, this is what good looks like. For sure.
We're gonna need another podcast for that one too, right?
Oh, so there's
no.
What are we quick. At? 12. So 6 for that one, 2 for this one.
That's it. So my routine, I wake up anywhere between 4 and 5, depends. When I always wake up before 5. It just depends on kind of where the body's at. Yeah. And so I'm up. I meditate for an hour at least, from 60 to 90 minutes. Right after that, I do my gratitude practice. Right after my gratitude practice, I put the eye mask on, headphones in, and I do about 20 to 30 minutes of breath work. Once I'm done that, I get up, I go and I do cold showers and contrasting. So warm, cold, really working on that vasoconstriction, vasodilation. Then I'm downstairs to do, it takes the supplements that need to be taken on my empty stomach. Then I usually do some writing. I do creative projects, things like that, things that get me kind of in that creative zone. And then kind of start my day and tend to work out in the early afternoon. That's what I'm doing right now and what's really, really working for me. But
so when do you eat? What's your nutrition like?
Yeah. So my nutrition, I used to intermittent fast. I used to do that. Now I'm a lot more intuitive with the approach. So for me, I eat when I'm hungry. And generally, when I'm up at 4:30, I'll have chlorophyll. I'll have some stuff that's really light on my stomach first thing in the morning. And then usually around, 9, 10 o'clock, I start having, my smoothie. I'm big on buckwheat these days. I'm really liking buckwheat. Yeah. A lot of good. Yeah. It's really good for fiber. And then I have, two other meals throughout the course of the day, and that's it. Yeah. Just fueling up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I tend to, I've tried like 30 grams of protein within 30 minutes, and it just, I feel bloated a lot, and I'm with you. I tend to do warmer drinks. I really enjoy having turmeric and cayenne, ginger. First thing, it just kind of perks you up instead of coffee. And then I can't give up espresso. I gave up coffee for about 2 years, but then you go back to Europe and you go, oh, that shit's so good.
Yeah, I know. I don't even drink coffee, and when I'm in Europe, I do. So there's
Exactly.
something about European coffee.
And then we spent a lot on our coffee machine. So I'll have one or two espressos, and then having spent so much time in Asia, afternoon is always tea, right? I enjoy a multitude of different teas, and then I really focus on not try to eat anything after 6 o'clock, right? Have dinner, because for us, like Cam, do you have wife, children, anybody responsible for or accountable for?
Yeah, I'm myself is pretty is a lot of work. But I am engaged. I have a fiance. We do not have kids. We were supposed to get married 3 times now, but COVID keeps having different plans with that.
Oh, damn.
So we're just we're navigating that world. But yeah, no kids yet. But
because that's a big one. Yeah, that's a big one.
Mhm.
When a lot of people, when I try to do something, then you go, okay, my boy just woke up at 6 o'clock, which is halfway through my routine. That's something that I know that a lot of people have asked me, like, how do you deal with that? How do you, and so you have to build contingency, or I call them family contingency. So don't book your day back to back to back to back to back. Give yourself some free space that if somebody does come into your day to say, okay, yeah, you know what? I booked in an extra hour. If my boy shows up at, 6:30 when I'm halfway through my breathing techniques or my breathing session, then okay, it's not optimal, but you have time to get back into it and you don't feel like you've lost too much, right? So
So one thing I will add to that, and I don't have kids, so I can't speak from experience, but I can speak from experience with my clients as well as some mentorship that I've gotten. And for instance, I talked about Dr. Joe Dispenza. He says that it's all about communication, right? And his kids grew up in the household where he meditated for 2 hours at a time. That's what he did. And so his kids knew that when he had his eye mask on, that was daddy's time.
Yeah.
And so they could come around and hang out, but he reinforced in their being that he's like, that's daddy's time. And it's like, I think as parents, I'm not one, but from what I've heard, once again, from my clients, is that we feel we have to drop everything for our children, but that's simply because we haven't explained to them what's going on, and so a lot of my clients, they just have the conversation with their kids. And it's like, hey, when I'm moving, this is time that I need for myself to show up and really, be there for you, and the more that they bring their kids into their journey and the more that they, really bring them along, the amount of people that message me that, say, oh, my kids are now on your meal plan, or my kids are now doing the breath work with me, or we're doing the meditations as a family. And so all this stuff will kind of come to the surface, but they have to be invited in. Right.
Agreed.
And the more they're invited in, it just really kind of smooths things out. So, I can't speak from experience, but I can speak from people that have been close to me's experience.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. Communication, right? Same thing as a CEO with employees. Hey, this is daddy's time. This is CEO time, right? The door's closed just because I need thinking time. It's not because I don't want to hear you. Now, if it's an emergency, you can come in and you can knock and say it's an emergency. Just like when my boy wakes up at 6:30, he's like, Dad, okay, go and read your book. You know how it is. I know that you just want to say hello, good morning. It is important to, like you said, set the expectation on intention versus action, right? So that's really good. Wow. I mean, look at this. An hour has gone by and boom, you can go on for hours and hours. So usually, if you like this episode, for those who are listening, put in the comments below that you'd like to have Cam on again, and I'm sure that we'll be able to squeeze that in. With that being said, any last words of wisdom, Cam, to the listeners and people who are watching?
I guess the thing that comes to me is just to really trust your body, right? To really truly trust your body and to start to pay attention to the intelligence systems within you as opposed to in your mind, right? And really tapping into, your heart and your gut, right? They say the mind thinks, the heart knows, right? And the more that we can tap into our heart, the more that we can tap into our instincts and our gut, and the more that we listen to those intelligence systems, magical things start happening in our lives. And it just takes a little bit of trust and faith in the unknown, because, if it's the mind trying to create it, then it's the known, right? So the more that we allow ourselves to go into the unknown and trust these internal systems and, intelligence centers in our body, the more we find some pretty cool stuff that we couldn't have thought up ourselves.
Never subdue your emotions. Acknowledge them, understand them. It's okay to be angry. It's not okay to act in anger, which is completely different. That's, my boy has a hard time with that. He struggles with managing his anger. It's because he can't find words to express the feelings that he has. And so we're working on that and the breath work. So like I said, I've put my hand up. When this is over, Cam and I are going to have a discussion of how do I join this breathing, I'll call it breathing club for lack of education, but there, thank you, Cam, for being on the show. It was wonderful having you. Thank you very much. The title was Using Your Body as a Vehicle for Change. I think that we didn't have to say that quite often, but I think that the conversation went very well centered towards that. So thank you very much, Cam, for being on the show.
My pleasure, Martin.
Thank you very much. So my name is Martin Hunter. I am the host of What CEOs Talk About, where today we really translated strategy into frontline operations is how do you deal with the day-to-day basis. So thank you very much for listening or watching. Oh, shit. I always say this at the end and I always forget. You need to like, subscribe, click the bell, all that crap. Like, if you like the show, let me know. If you don't, let me know too. All right. Thank you very much, folks. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks for tuning in to What CEOs Talk About. Make sure to click subscribe to get notified about future episodes or check us out at www.whatceostalkabout.com.